Hey, what's up, guys? Chad here with the Reptile Rangers. Now, we're at the Kernersville Reptile Zoo and Medical Center again today, and we're going to talk about introduction to Burmese pythons. Now, just before we get into that, right there in that bottom corner is our subscriber button. Make sure you hit that, and we appreciate you doing so. And for those that already have, we appreciate you following along week after week after week. Now, let's get right into this. All right, so this big, beautiful girl right here is an albino Burmese python. We're going to talk about introduction to Burmese pythons today on this episode. One of the most amazing, I think, animals to me. They're not amazing in their abundance of intelligence. They're not necessarily amazing in their ability to be very biodiverse when it comes to a lot of activity level, things like that. But to me, it's one of the most amazing animals. I absolutely love Burmese pythons. I've been breeding them for over 20 years now. For a little while back, just before COVID and in the early stages of COVID, we were the only ones in the state of North Carolina breeding normals at that time. So I love Burmese pythons. We call them basically big ball pythons on steroids. They're a very, very easy animal to work with. You have to bear in mind the size that you're dealing with, the size of the habitat, the size of the food that's going to be coming, and the level of care that it's going to take to really work with something like this. While they can be relatively easy, it does not mean that you need to slack in your care and things like that. However, we're just talking about introduction to these guys today. These guys are from Southeast Asia. Now, those and the reticulated pythons are both from the same general region of the world. These are one of the large 4 species of snakes on the planet. They can get over 20 feet and over 200 pounds, like this girl that you see right here inside of the video. This was one that we had quite a few years ago. She was 20 foot 4 inches and she was well over 200 pounds. She was a big, big girl. But these guys start off at about 18 inches, as you'll see in this video popping right here. The babies are absolutely amazing. They come out quite testy, so they have to be quite a bit more defensive as babies because a lot more things can eat them. They do tend to be a little bit more arboreal when it comes to being babies. They climb a whole lot more until they start getting to sizes like this girl right here, where they start getting a lot more girth, and it's not so easy to haul their chunky selves up into massive trees. Now, they do, of course, being from Southeast Asia, love access to water. But inside of enclosures, one of the things that we have to talk about is making sure that there's not too much moisture in the air inside enclosed spaces, because enclosed spaces are totally different than out in nature where air can still move. However, that's for another video. These guys as babies will eat all kinds of different things like lizards, and of course they are carnivorous. So if they can get a hold of something that's appropriate size, such as pinkies of babies, certain baby species, fowl, and different lizards, things like that, they will eat those. Now, as they become adults, they'll take pretty much whatever. These guys are opportunistic feeders. So they'll eat about any time food is offered, because in the wild, they would never know when the next meal is going to come along. So with that being said, they can take things, depending on their size, up to full-grown 15-pound rabbits. They can take small pigs. They can take baby goats. This girl right here can take all the above. She's a big, big girl, one of my breeding females. The size of the prey also, and the type of prey that you feed in captivity, will base off of what your needs are, and also will give you time frames, meaning if you're feeding actual true pigs, you don't need to feed as often because pigs are high in fat. If you're feeding rabbits, you can feed a little bit more often. It's a lean protein, so it's a little bit leaner. It's not quite as high in fat. So just depending on what you have and depending on what you have access to when it comes to food, will also factor in as to how often that you're going to feed. You typically tend to feed a little bit more when they're younger because they're still growing. As they get older, the feedings do tend to slow down a little bit because they don't do as much movement, so they don't need as much nutrition, so that they don't build up a high fatty content. Now, certain individuals online will show these big, massive, fat reticulated pythons and Burmese pythons. Those are unhealthy. Okay. While they look cool, they look big, they look fat, they're super massively unhealthy. That's not natural. It's not normal for them to look that plump and that big. They're not supposed to look like skin and bones. They shouldn't be rib cages and nothing else, but they should not be that fat as well. All right. Now, these guys will have heat sensing pits. Come here, baby girl. Come here, pretty girl. So just like this big, beautiful girl right here, and ball pythons, they will have heat sensing pits, so they can hunt by body heat as well as by smell. and by sight. Now, these guys have been classified as a invasive species throughout some of the southern U.S., especially in Florida. They're not as overpopulated as the media likes to make it out to be. There's actually more feral house cats doing more damage to our wildlife, just your stupid house cat that people don't know how to keep under control. That crap and those animals kill more wildlife for the fun of it than any of the other exotic species. But there's also exotics of everything. There's exotic plant life down there. There's exotic mammals, exotic birds, exotic reptiles. There's everything. It's a smorgasbord for things from all over the world. But these are classified, and they are an invasive species. They are one of many invasive species out of the Florida and southern United States region. It's not so much from so many releasing, but more from natural disasters like hurricanes and things like that that come through and just wipe out breeders, facilities, shacks, sheds, buildings, whatever the case may be. That's where the biggest brunt of these animals have. Anyhow, these guys do hide well. They do love bodies of water. Again, remember, they're from Southeast Asia, so they're from a tropical region. So they do love bodies of water. And they do hide really well in a lot of different areas. There's many different color morphs when it comes to these guys. There's albinos, there's granites, there's greens, there's hypos, there's ivories, there's labyrinths, there's normals. And normals anymore are just about as pretty, I think, as about anything. And your normals come with probably your least amount of health-related issues due to just it being a normal genetic. The genetics do tend to have some health issues. We'll talk about that at another time. So this is just a simple introduction into the Burmese python, which is a very, very popular pet. It's been around for many, many years, popularly used, especially the albino in a lot of TV series and a lot of commercials and a lot of music videos, things like that. These are very, very popular, even at certain Halloween functions for picture-related options. I have no problem with that as long as it's done the right way and the animals are taken care of. That's the first and most important thing. But again, this is introduction to Burmese pythons. Hope this has been helpful. Hope this has been enjoyable. It gives you a little bit of an insight into an introduction of a absolutely amazing, what we would classify as pet snake. Now, remember, we don't call them friendly. We call them social. They've been socialized. There is no such thing as a really friendly reptile or snake. They're socialized. They've become social or they're anti-social. And these guys do settle down absolutely wonderfully. From babies to adults, usually only takes just a couple of handlings to settle down a Burmese python, most of them. You will have the rare oddball from time to time. However, it doesn't happen very often that you have one that just wants to stay fairly defensive. Okay, we don't call it aggressive, we call it defensive. All right, now this is Chad. We are the Kernersville Reptile Zoo and Medical Center and store. We do have the store. We are the Reptile Rangers. We appreciate you coming along week after week after week. Make sure to get with us in the information below. If you have any questions, feel free to write us in and let us know of other things that you would like for us to film about. Don't forget about the YouTube channel, of course, at Reptile Rangers. Don't forget about the TikTok channel at Reptile Rangers. Don't forget about the Instagram page, Kernersville Reptile Zoo, also the Facebook page at Kernersville Reptile Zoo, or you can find all the above at KernersvilleReptileZoo.com, which goes right to our website and has all those links as it is. If you're interested in pet supplies or anything like that, we do carry those as well. Feel free to come in and see us anytime, and we do appreciate you coming along again and following along video after video. We'll either see you here at the zoo, or we'll see you on the next episode. Later.